Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here to a very fun discussion video on the competitive merits of pickup as an ability, because as we learned in Fan Fridays very recently, you can actually use pickup competitively to create an infinite flinch lock against the opponent. It's ridiculous. So one thing I want to ask before we go into the heart of this video, breaking down what happened, how it works, what other things you can do with pickup competitively, I want to ask you guys, did you know about this? Because I kind of did know about it beforehand, but I didn't think the applications worked in PvP online battles against other trainers. That every time I've looked at it, I'd never thought that pickup had an in-battle effect that could actually be useful. Because I remember when I was doing my guide for pickup back in Pokemon Sun and Moon, I think even for X and Y or like these other weird interactions I've had with pickup, you know, there is a guide on Serbi and it does break down that it works during battle. And I've comprehended that it works during battle, but I never saw it as a lasting effect. You know, this can include consumed items that your opponent used in battle. Yes, I've comprehended that before. So if against the red card trainer on Route 3, it may pick up a red card. So you can actually use this to farm certain items in different Pokemon games starting in Generation 5. Like, I was like, oh, maybe this was like a 7th generation effect or something that happened recently in the 3DS games, but this has been around for a while, and if you encounter a wild Pokemon or trainer and they consume an item and you don't have an item on your pickup Pokemon, they can just pick it up. I thought this happened after the battle, not during, and that didn't allow for a continuous cycle of effects to be applied. So that's something pretty crazy right there. I want you guys to comment down below if you knew about this or not. I hit up all my friends immediately. I went into my fan Discord, I asked everyone, and like 90% of them were like, no. Pickup doesn't work like that. This is what pickup does. You get cool items with pickup. You don't get to use it in battle to infinitely cycle through and get tons of flinches because you can just like pick up the items and stuff. And also it does make sense with how it's applied. That for the most part, if you do single battles, this will never be a thing to you. Now at the end of the turn in which another Pokemon used a one-time use item, or else it would be pretty broken if you could just fling a Razor Claw or King's Rock with an Ambipom infinitely and then flinch out the opponent. So it needs to happen in doubles, but I'm very surprised because I've hosted thousands of battles on this channel, or you know, at least over 1,000. I've participated in thousands of battles, and I've never seen this happen, even as a gimmick, even as something silly. I haven't seen anyone talk about it. It's like this never existed until yesterday when the video appeared. So I wonder what your guys' thoughts on this are as well, because I wonder if some people had the same thought as me, like, yes, I knew it worked this way, but I didn't actually knew that it applied in battles. So let's go a little deeper into these mechanics. So one thing that we can look at are the Pokemon that actually receive pickup. So that was the page for Meowth. And yeah, there's not a lot of pickup Pokemon, and there's certainly not a lot of competitive ones. Like, you understand using pickup, for the most part, it makes sense. Like, okay, I can have pickup, I can get some rare candies, I can get some cool items, and you specifically do it to farm items. But when you look at these Pokemon, you know, you'd rather have Frisk or the Insomnia on the Gourgeist. Don't see the Gourgeist too often. We don't even see a lot of these Pokemon because they're not fully evolved. By the time Pokemon evolves, it gets a better ability, which you assume to be competitive. Because there's actually quite a few abilities that have no in-battle effect in Pokemon, and Pickup was just always assumed to be one because it's an outside battle effect is actually pretty powerful and pretty useful as it is. So why would it have both? Ambipom, that's going to be like number 1. Linoon, that's number 2. Diggersby, yeah, Cheek Pouch and huge power though. Like, Diggersby is terrible without the huge power, so I don't really see it that way. And then same for the Dedenne. So in theory, this could work out and it could have like some viability. And also we have to look at the Pokemon speed, because we need to outspeed to make sure that we get the flinch on the opponent. So the strategy isn't perfect. Like, you need to actually outspeed your opponent, so we're looking for the fastest Pokemon that can use Fling with this pickup combo, and that's like kind of it. If the opponent has an item and that gets consumed, such as a Citrus Bear or something like that, that means that item will be picked up instead because it was being applied after the fling happened. So there's a couple things that can get in the way, but I'm still very surprised that something this stupid and this gimmicky actually exists in Pokemon. It kind of reminds me of the original Fear Aeron back in the 5th generation when weather was permanent. So you just bring out the Tyranitar, and then Aeron can come in whenever as long as that weather isn't cleared, and then like you just Sandstream it up and you're good to go. So there's a lot of like weirdness that can happen right there. And also, the team that we saw for Fan Fridays, it used Ambipom Linoon. I guess because those are going to be the 2 fastest Pokemon that can use Fling. But Dedenne actually has pickup with the Fling, so it's going to be a 101 on the speed. So technically faster, The stats, though, are still kind of questionable. And Cheek Pouch on Dedenne is going to be one of the main reasons to use it, but we don't really see much out of that. So, yeah, if we actually go and search up Fling, Dedenne gets access to it. So, yeah, just TM with the ability, and you're kind of set up from there. So, that's some pretty good stuff. And then we can see Meowth. Meowth is another interesting Pokemon. So, not Persian. Persian actually loses pickup on evolution, so you're stuck with Meowth, much like you'd be stuck with the Lillipup or the Trumbeak. So this pickup does kind of fade into some of the more viable Pokemon. 90 base speed, still okay. Pachirisu, 95 base speed, and then we have Gourgeist on that 99 speed. So the top three are going to be like Dedenne, Linoone, and then the Ambipom. But also we can look into other ways of making it work, because one thing that was told in the comment section that actually gave me a bit more insight as to what's going on here is that Pokemon Showdown has incorrect mechanics. That if you try this Ambipom Linoone strat on Pokemon Showdown, it actually didn't work. That a lot of people told me that they didn't know that this is how pickup worked because they tested on Pokemon Showdown and it failed. So it seems like with Pokemon Showdown, it actually doesn't keep a list of the most previously used Fling items, because that's actually the aspect of Fling that makes this happen. If multiple items can be collected, the Pokemon will collect the item most recently consumed. So it kind of like just kind of works its way up the chain. And Pokemon Showdown is a program for that, so Pokemon Showdown isn't going to represent the mechanics as well. So how do you do it? What's happening right here? Well, Fling, if you fling a flinch beneficial item, so holder attacks without a chance to flinch, gain 10% chance. We see this with the Razor, actually yeah, it's Razor Fang. I said Razor Claw earlier, I meant Razor Fang. I got my crit and flinch mixed up. But yeah, Razor Fang, you fling that as well. Attacks without chance flinch have a 10%, but if you fling it, it turns into a 100% chance to flinch. So there's not a lot of like 100% chance to flinch power out there, but you can find it with the Razor Fang into the Fling. And that's why I have this Ambipom set up the way it is, because there's a really trolly Ambipom set that I've seen a few people run, but this is most notoriously like in the battle tree as well as the battle maison, I believe, and like just randomly Pokemon will throw one of these at you. The idea is that you fake out for the flinch, you fling your King's Rock for the flinch, and then you thief, so you steal their item after you've already given up all of your items. And I think it's a pretty funny thing. Also with the Technician, you're getting a boost to the thief. I don't think Fling makes it, but yeah, fake out thief, get the Technician boost, which is kind of funny. And then Ambipom's fast and does a decent amount of damage. So you're really just stealing an item and then getting like 2 flinches worth of damage. So that's a little fun right there. But what happens is that you fling the King's Rock, and then Linoone picks it up, and then Linoone flings the Razor Fang, and Ambipom picks that up, and then you get to flinch your opponent into oblivion. It sounds so stupid it shouldn't work, but as we see in the battle, it happens. So that's pretty crazy. Now for the rest of this team, what we saw was a Garbodor set up with a couple of other things as well. We have the Poison Gas, and we have the Explosion. So what it wants to do is poison everyone, explode, and then get into the flinch setup as fast as possible, because this can kind of go wrong if one of your flinch Pokemon faint before both of them hit the field, because you have to have them both on the field, and then you have to use it in tandem. If you ever get out of sync, bad things are going to happen, but the idea behind the Poison Gas is that these Pokemon aren't going to be doing a lot of damage with the Fling. So Poison Gas is going to poison both opponents in doubles. That's like one of the really neat effects about Poison Gas that people kind of overlook, is that it's not as powerful as Toxic. I mean, you're doing 1/8 to both opponents in double battles by setting up that Poison Gas, and that's pretty strong. So you're actually being able to tick them down while keeping them flinched infinitely, and then you eventually just win off of that. That's also why we see a Toxic Spike setups earlier in the battle as well, because pretty much you just want to cycle until you win, and if the opponent does not have priority, or a faster Pokemon, which is also remedied by the Sticky Web. So this was also a Toxic Spike setup on the Garbodor, pretty much doing everything to make sure the opponent is going to be slower, they're going to be taking residual damage at the end of the turn, and like priority does kind of screw it up because you're not getting the flinch on them, but you're still like able to do some damage, and priority for the most part isn't going to be super strong, and since Ambipom and Linoone are normal type Pokemon, you're not going to be able to use Shadow Sneak against them, so it does remove some of the priority options, and that's kind of the breakdown right there. And also, one of the surprises that we end up seeing is that Garbodor has the Thief. This is absolutely necessary as well, because if they have a Citrus Berry, again, that ruins the whole setup. So if you can Thief, you can just steal the item, or maybe a Pokemon with Knockoff as well. You know, if you just take the correct item, and they don't get to use it, hey, that was their one and only Citrus Berry. So now that means Ambipom and Linoone have a better chance of having this strategy not go completely wrong. My response to this is that, yeah, Garbodor, it has a purpose, because without the Poison Gas, without the Toxic Spikes, it's going to be a painfully long and slow battle with very low amounts of damage. So it kind of turns into a win condition off of that. Other ways you can just make your opponent forfeit, or just through frustration. It's like, oh, I'm getting infinitely Flinch launched forever. Problem is, Fling does have a limited amount of PP. So if you're not able to KO all of the opponent's Pokemon in just 16 turns, yeah, it does drag on and it does go by pretty fast, but if they catch on, it's like, oh, you just ran out of Flings and now you don't have the infinite Flinch forever. So that's going to be a little problematic for the Ambipom and Linoon, so that's why you need that Poison. The Poison's going to take them out in a pretty much set amount of time, and they're not allowed to heal because you're able to lock them out on the Flinch the entire time. So I think that that works out. One other option I was trying to think about was like the Gourgeist. Gourgeist, it can use Thief, and it can explode while having the Frisk ability. So Gourgeist can come in with that Frisk, kind of see if there's any dangerous items, Thief them if they need to, and then explode for still reasonable amounts of damage. Unfortunately, the Garbodor didn't really do a ton of damage. Gourgeist isn't really going to do an insane amount of damage as well, even though it is an explosion. So that could be a little problematic, but Gourgeist can set up a Leech Seed. So, I mean, if there is enough time for Gourgeist to, like, Leech Seed into the Thief to do its own little thing for the setup, Explosion for the finish, then that means you do have something ticking down, and then you just really have to try to, like, 12-hit KO the last two Pokemon that the opponents have. It's possible. So, yeah, that's kind of it. And then also Day-to-Day is an option as well. So there we go, guys. Those are like some of the more in-depth mechanics as to what we saw with Fan Fridays. I kind of broke it down, and it does feel like this weird alternate reality that I feel like I should have experienced this at some point in my life until this moment, because we're at the end of the 7th generation. Pokemon on the Switch has been confirmed for 2018. What are we doing with our lives that this strategy hasn't been discovered since Generation 5? That's like 8 years of this going under the radar. How is that even possible? I'm sure that some people have experienced it, but this seems like one of those stupid things. Everyone knows about the Fear Aeron. Everyone knows about the stupid gimmicks that exist in the game because someone from Japan has pulled them on you at some point. I've seen some really fun stuff back in my day, but this takes it to a new level, and it just kind of appeared one day out of nowhere. So I honestly feel like, you know, two-dimensional bubbles collided, and then they just brought that into our universe. Because that's the only thing that could explain this strat and how crazy things are. But tell me what you guys think. I think it's pretty fun and good overall. So guys, enjoy the video. Fun little breakdown as to how Fling works in competitive Pokemon. Does it have any other use, you know? There's a couple other things you can do to like at least get extra use out of your item. Use a consume item. Have your ally use a consume item. Then bounce that back into your Pokemon. I think that this is the best way of using it, or the most reliable way. It's kind of hard to, like, unless you have like a full team of consume items and you're trying to like get a little bit of extra use out of the pickup, I don't really see it going too far. There could probably be some really fun things that people come up with, and I'd be excited to see it as well. So if you guys enjoy the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.